You know, it's always said that you should never brag. You should never brag about yourself. It might be nice if someone else brags about you, but you should never brag about yourself. Now, with that said, what I want to do this evening is just ask all of you a question. And the question is this: what is the one thing you do? And when I say you, I'm talking about not all of you collectively, but rather you as an individual. So think about the answer to this question for yourself. What is the one thing that you do better than anyone else in the world? Now, there are 6 billion people in the world. Out of those 6 billion people, you do one thing better than all those other people. I do one thing better than all those other people in the world. Does anyone know what it is? Nothing. No, there's something that you do better. There's something we all do better than all those other people in the world. Any idea? The answer is this: being you. No one does you better than all those other people in the world. That's what makes you unique. That's what makes you special. That's what makes God love you, is that you are unique. There's only one of you, and all the people in this entire world, there's only one of you. Now, the good Lord looks at all of us, and what he loves about us is that which is our own unique character. That's what makes you special. And that's the key point of today's gospel reading for this second Sunday of Advent. The gospel comes out of the first chapter of Mark, verses 1 to 8. And what we want to look at is verse 4 to 7, because there's something very unique about John the Baptist that God, Jesus, fell in love with. Let's take a look at verse 4 to 7. Again, first chapter of Mark. John the Baptist appeared in the desert proclaiming a baptism of repentance for the forgiveness of sins. People of the whole Judean countryside and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem were going out to him, were being baptized by him in the Jordan River as they acknowledged their sins. John with clothes and camel's hair, with a leather belt around his waist. He fed on locusts and wild honey. And this is what he proclaimed: one mightier than I is coming after me. Now, what I want you to do is take a look at that section in gold print. That is powerful. You see, John puts down what Jesus puts down, what John wore and what he ate on purpose. Because no one else dressed like John, and no one else ate that wild food. John with clothes and camel hair, with a leather belt around his waist. He fed on locusts and wild honey. That's what made John unique. And God said, I want John to be the one that is my mouthpiece. I want people to hear the message he's going to spread about my son, Jesus Christ. And I need someone who's authentic, someone who's unpretentious, someone who is not a phony. What you see is what you get, and take a look at what shows up John. John turns out to be probably the second most important person in the entire New Testament is John. Now, there's a lot of people back in biblical times that could have looked at John and said, that John is far out. He's a nut. Look how this man is dressed. Look at what this man eats. But God was looking for authenticity. He was looking for someone who just had the gifts. And he was saying that I love this character of John. He's unpretentious. What you see is what you get. Therefore, God said, of all the people in the world, John can do one thing that no one else can do. And I recognize it. I see it. That's what makes him special. He's going to be my mouthpiece for my son, Jesus Christ. How important that is in life. Now, the rest of the world might sell us short. People might look at you and say, no, this guy has no special talents, no special gifts, but you do. Because you do one thing better than everyone else in this world. That's being you. We're going to watch a little video by Clint and Mr. Jensen. And everyone gave Clint a rough time, except one person who saw something in Clint that no one else did. And he told Clint what he believes Clint actually is. And it changed Clint's life. Everyone else said, no, not Clint. But Mr. Jensen, he saw the beauty of Clint.
I have a lot of memories from when I was a child. One that's always stuck out to me, though, was when I was about 10 years old, and I was in school, and I struggled. And I didn't struggle with English, math, or science. I struggled holding still. And I would try to listen and focus and process ideas, but I couldn't help myself. And to be honest, I would sit there and then I would just start tapping. And the students in the class would look at me and they'd say, "Hey, stop tapping." A lot of the time, I didn't even realize I was doing it. And then eventually even the teachers got after me and they would yell at me and they'd say, "Clint, you have to stop tapping." It got so bad that I got sent to the principal's office for tapping. And he said to me, "Okay, maybe when you go back to class, just try sitting on your hands." So I did. I went back to class, and when I felt myself starting to tap, I did this. I sat on my hands. And that worked for about 5 seconds. One time I was tapping in class, and my teacher, Mr. Jensen, he looked at me and he yelled. And he said, "Clint, stay after class." And I thought to myself, this is it. I am done. Now, I've always been the type of person that believes that a single moment in time can change a person's life. And this was one of those moments for me. And I will never forget it. And so I was sitting there with Mr. Jensen and an empty classroom. And he walked past me and he sat next to his desk and he said, "Clint, come here. I want to talk to you." And as he looked me right in the eye, he said, "No, I need you to know something. You're not in trouble. But I do have just one question that I have to ask you." And he said, "Have you ever thought about playing the drums?" And in that moment, Mr. Jensen, he leaned back and he opened the top drawer of his desk. And he reached in and he pulled out my very first pair of drumsticks. And he held them in his hands and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Clint, you're not a problem. I think you're a drummer." From that moment on, I've never put those sticks down. I've toured, recorded, and played drums all over the world. My whole college education was paid for with drumsticks in my hand. Just because of a single moment in time when somebody believed in me and he saw something in me that I didn't even see within myself. And from that moment, I learned that there's a difference between being the best in the world and being the best for the world.
That's all it takes. Sometimes in this world, that's all it takes is for someone to see something special in you because there's something special in all of us. The most important person that you want to see something special in is you. You know, they say that the precursor for and the foundation for drugs and alcoholism and other styles of abuse is when you have a low self-esteem. A low sense of self-worth when you say to yourself, "I'm not special. There's nothing about me the world would want. I offer to the world absolutely nothing. I don't have a good feeling about myself. I have low self-esteem, low sense of self-worth." And when you feel that way, then the door opens for drugs and alcoholism and all styles of other physical abuse to yourself. But if you're able to say, "No, I am special," not that you want to walk around and have everyone beneath you, but you have to be able to realize that you're special. God made just one of you. Of all the people in this world, you are the only one like you. No one else is like you. You're special, you're unique, you got your own abilities, your own talents, your own way of doing things, and no one can equal what you can do, and that's being you. Mr. Jensen saw something in Clint when everyone else sold Clint short. "Stop making all that racket, Clint. Go over there and sit down, Clint." Well, what would have happened to Clint if Mr. Jensen had realized, "Clint," as he said, "you're not a problem, you're a drummer. I see your value, I see your gift." What would have happened to John the Baptist if God hadn't seen John the Baptist and said, "I don't care how this guy's dressed. I don't care what this guy eats. But this is the one right here. This is the guy that's unpretentious. He's authentic. I need him to spread the message of my son. No one else could do the job that John the Baptist can. That's why I pick him. Probably the second most important person in the entire New Testament outside of Jesus himself. And that's the way Jesus sees you and he sees me. The next time you're saying to yourself, I don't even know what I'm doing here. The next time you say to yourself, I don't make any difference in the world at all. The next time you're beating yourself up and you don't see your sense of self-worth and self-value, what you want to do is walk over to the mirror and look at that mirror and say, yeah, I do one thing better than all the people in this entire world. There's 6 billion people in this world, and I do one thing better than all those other 6 billion people. The thing I do better than them is being me. No one does me better than I do. That's what makes me special. That's what makes me unique. That should give me a sense of self-worth and self-value. When I have self-worth and self-value, then at that point I'm able to say no to drugs and alcohol and every other style of abuse. Because I see myself as worthwhile, not worth less.